You are listening to One Happy Podcast, episode 45.
What is your next highlight of our vacation to Aruba?
Well, that one's easy. Pause.
I am waiting. I'm waiting with bated breath.
I have freaking no idea. But did you like how I said that one's easy?
Bon dia, and welcome to One Happy Podcast, the officially unofficial podcast of the island of Aruba. I'm your host, Curtis Robinson, a.k.a. Aruba Kurt. And before we get started, I want to thank you guys so much for downloading and listening to today's episode of the show, which is going to be fantastic and probably kind of funny for you guys. Let me give you a little bit of background. Now, after we returned from this latest trip to Aruba, we recorded this episode to be sort of like a review of that trip. But the problem is we decided to have a few glasses of wine before we recorded, and a few glasses of wine turned into a couple of more glasses after that. And before you knew it, we were recording. Now, I hadn't actually listened to this episode for quite a few days afterwards because honestly I was afraid to hear what it sounded like. But I ended up putting it on one day, and it wasn't nearly the train wreck that I thought it would be. So I asked people in the Friends of One Happy Podcast Facebook group if they thought I should post it, and the results were pretty favorable, so I decided that I would actually post this as episode 45 of One Happy Podcast. And truthfully, I had a lot of fun recording this with Maggie. I'm glad that I did decide to put it up, and I hope you guys enjoy episode 45 of One Happy Podcast, featuring me, Aruba Kurt, and Maggie.
Okay, so joining me today on One Happy Podcast is my favorite person on the entire planet Earth, Maggie. She's been on several episodes of the podcast. And luckily for me, luckily for all of us, she's decided to join us once again to talk about this past trip that we just had to Aruba, which took place from February 27th until March 7th. So, Maggie, how are you?
I'm great, Kurt. How are you?
Couldn't be any happier, as you know, because we've been drinking wine all day together.
I'm trying to be legit.
Be as legit as you feel like being. Be as silly as you want to be. But in any case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick your brain about our trip to Aruba and fill everybody in on what some of your favorite parts of the vacation were.
Okay.
So instead of just doing a play-by-play of the vacation, which could get boring for people, instead what I'm going to do is pick out some of the highlights. I'm going to pick out 3 highlights from the trip, and I want you to pick out 3 highlights of the trip.
That's great.
Okay, so let me get 3 of your... Well, actually, we're going to go one at a time. You first, and then me. We're going to pick out one of your highlights from our February 27th 9-day visit to the island of Aruba.
Well, let's start with the eel at Arashi Beach when we were just in the water talking about our vacation, and I saw that guy looking over my shoulder, kind of pointing at something, and I turned around, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a snake! And you stood up, and you're like, no, it's an eel.
Yeah, no, that thing was, I don't know if you even realized, how large that thing was.
I didn't, I just knew it was slithering behind me, that's all I knew.
Mm-hmm. No, it was at least 2, maybe 3 feet long. It was huge. I didn't see it at first. I saw the guy motioning as well, and when I actually looked behind you, that's when I saw that it was like a 2.5, 3 foot eel.
All I knew was it was scary, and I was trying to get out of its way.
Yeah, no, it was actually beautiful. Honestly, when you look at it, it was jet black with bright blue, almost neon blue circles.
I really couldn't see it. I mean, I know that guy had his snorkel gear on, but can you tell me a little bit more about it?
I didn't notice that at first. I was facing you, but I wasn't looking down in the water. And that's when I saw someone motioning from the shore. So I happened to look, and that's whenever I saw that it was this long fish-like thing. But I didn't want you to panic because I know how you get. So I tried to like guide you away from it or whatever, but that's when you turned around and looked and you saw that it was an eel, which is it was beautiful. It was, which probably means that it was deadly as all get out.
That's pretty scary. I know when I looked at it, I was like, is that an eel or is it? I mean, I know they have a lot of problems with boas, and I know we've seen boas on Arashi Beach before. So in the water, I looked down at it and I thought, oh my God, it's either an eel or it's a snake, because that's what it looked like to me, a snake.
Mm-hmm. That was definitely an eel.
Okay, let me ask you a question, because I don't know the answer to this.
Right, I probably don't either.
Could the eel have hurt me? Because it was really close behind me before I noticed it.
Probably depending on what type of eel it was. Who knows? It probably could have done some damage. He didn't look like he was looking to do any harm.
Scary. And I'm not sure it was one of the highlights of my trip.
Then why'd you pick it?
It was exciting, but I mean, if it could hurt me, I'm not sure that it was a highlight.
Honestly, he was really inquisitive. I was surprised that when we noticed him, he didn't swim away immediately. He looked like he was checking out the area.
Mm-hmm.
He honestly didn't swim away until the guy that had the snorkel equipment started following him around.
Yeah. Well, that was a shame. But when we were there the last day, I think maybe somebody saw him again.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe he hangs out in that area. I don't know if anybody else who has been to Arashi recently has seen the seal, but I'm betting he hangs out in that area.
Right, that could be his spot. Like that redfish that I see sometimes at Arashi.
Right.
I didn't take my snorkel gear down this time. But remember last trip, I would see a red fish that was like huge. If you were to catch him, he'd probably be like a 15-pound fish. But he was a bright red fish with like flowing fins almost.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's like his area where he lives.
Yeah, him and the eel.
They're probably buddies.
True that.
Yes. Now, can I tell you about one of my highlights?
I would love to hear about it.
Okay, one of my highlights of this trip was us revisiting Baby Beach, because last trip down, we didn't really visit Baby Beach.
That was going to be one of my highlights.
You missed the bus on that.
Yes, I agree. Funny, because we haven't been to Baby Beach. Has it been a year?
It's been a year.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's a long trip down, and I didn't know that I missed it as much as I did until I got there. And honestly, everything, the beach, the
water,
the restaurant,
the parking area,
which I've never been to, but it seems like it's been built up a lot more. The water, just my interest in the entire environment down there. I hadn't realized how much I missed it until I got there. Because once I was there for one day, I knew as soon as I left that I wanted to go back again.
Yes, definitely, and we did do that. But the first day we went down, right, was it was like an impromptu visit. We didn't mean to go down there. We just decided, spur of the moment, we're going down to Baby Beach.
Right.
And it was so cool to just be able to go out into the water, and no matter how far you wander out, it's like chest high, maybe.
At most.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just such a cool feeling to be 150 feet from shore, but still being in like chest high water.
Right.
There were a lot more visitors down there than I remember from past visits.
Yeah, there were. It seemed like there were a lot more, I don't want to say foreigners, but it was less locals than there were visitors, and I could tell a difference.
Yeah, definitely. But, I mean, also that's what you get during the weekdays. Now, if we had gone down on a weekend, it'd probably be a completely different vibe.
That's true.
And what do you think about Mama's? Because, I mean, when we first started going to Baby Beach, that wasn't there. And over the years, it's built up, and now it's a full-blown restaurant.
Well, that's kind of what I meant about the restaurant area. When we used to go there before, it seemed a lot more just open beach area with maybe a little stand for food. But now it's like a huge restaurant and a lot of music going on there and a lot more excitement.
Very true. The place was jam-packed when we were down there.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, what do you think about the guys renting out chairs, the chair vendors on the beach?
I bet they make a whole lot of money, even though they don't make any money from us. I could just tell how many people that come there, and everybody wants to use the, I don't know what they're called, but the huge umbrellas that go over the beach chairs where you can sit
like the cabanas.
People. Yeah. They're really nice. I don't know how much they cost, do you?
No, probably too much.
For us, anyway. But, hey, sitting on my beach chair with my towel over my head is fine by me.
Yeah, remember the first day when we were down there, and because we went twice, but remember the first day we were down there and they ended up sitting the other people like right on top of us?
Do I want to tell you how upset I was?
Go for it. Go for it. Why not?
Well, I don't like people on top of me.
Keep it PG-13.
I don't like people on top of me. So as soon as we got out of the water, after we noticed that they were on top of us, I mean literally next to me, I picked up my chair and I moved forward and I turned my chair to the right so that they weren't looking at me and I wasn't looking at them, because part of the beauty of being at the beach is looking at the water, not at other people. I don't want to see anybody else in their bathing suit. I'm sure they don't want to see me in my bathing suit. I just want to see the beauty of the water.
True, but let me ask you, how do you think people feel whenever we camp out in front of them on Manchego Beach or Palm Beach?
I feel like we try and do our best to make sure that we don't obstruct somebody else's view, and I think that's important.
True, right. It's all about being courteous to your fellow visitors.
Right. Whether you paid for it or you didn't pay for it, I mean, I think it's just the right thing to do.
It's basic human decency.
Right. And it's a big beach, so, like, everybody's got space.
That's right. Plenty of space down at Baby Beach.
Everywhere.
Yes. So, what is your next highlight of your Aruba trip?
Okay, so I would say that my second favorite thing would probably be when we went to Aruba Ray's comedy show.
Yes.
Was that your second thing?
I don't really have my things in a hierarchy, but Aruba Ray's comedy was definitely a highlight of this trip.
Right. So, anyway, we went to see him twice, because if we can, we will.
As many times as possible, because his show is hilarious.
Yes. And I'm probably going to combine these two shows together, because seeing a comedian for the first time is a little bit different than seeing the comedian for the second time, but the whole experience for the second time was even funnier than the experience for the first time. You know what I mean?
No, actually, I have no clue what you're talking about. So please explain to the listening audience.
Okay. So, it depends on what comedian you're seeing. And
True.
We saw Brian Scott McFadden on the first night. We also saw him again on our second show.
Okay.
And
so the first night, as always, is Aruba Ray Allen, because he hosts every night of the show.
Right.
And the first night was Aruba Ray Allen, it was Brian Scott McFadden, it was Ted Alexandro.
Right.
Then the second night was Aruba Ray Allen, Brian Scott McFadden, and Lenny Marcus.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so Brian Scott McFadden was the highlight of the first show. He ended the show. It was hilarious. His comedy routine was great.
He freaking killed it. I mean, you could tell he was just feeling it, too. It was like he was controlling it was amazing.
Yeah. Was that his first night?
Yeah, okay. I think it was.
So, I mean, I don't want to ruin his show for anybody, but he really killed it from beginning to end. It's like he told a story.
It was the second night.
And comedy is hilarious, but when you tell a story and you follow it from beginning to end and you end it with something that kind of flows from the beginning of the show, it makes it even funnier. So that was great.
Yeah, he brought it full circle.
The second night, you know, it was getting near the end of our trip, and we weren't sure we wanted to take the time to go to another show. However, I wanted to see a second show, so you and I went again, And even though we had seen him before, he and Lenny and Ray, they really made the night. And we got the, what do you call it?
The open bar.
Okay. So we ended up getting the open bar again. And I'm not sure if that's what loosened me up, because honestly, when you get down to the last 3 nights, it's kind of sad, because you don't want to be going home. And you try to keep your sadness away from the other person so that you don't bring them down. But we were on our way to a comedy show. And I really wanted to see a second comedy show. So when we got there, I let everything go, and I just listened to the comedians. Lenny was hilarious, and it kind of loosened me up, so I got to the point where I was listening to Brian Scott McFadden again, and some of his routine was the same as it was from the night before that we had seen him.
But I mean, you'll get that when you see comedians on almost back-to-back nights.
Right. But, I mean, I knew what was coming in some of them, so, that was the same. But having the, me.
I can edit.
Okay. So, having the opportunity to have the open bar and listening to him a second time, he didn't really tell his stories the same way both times, and it was really funny to listen to him a second time. But after seeing him the first time, you get that experience, and it's not exactly the same the second time, but it was funny in a different way.
Right, definitely. No, I thought he was hilarious both times. The first time I almost peed myself. he killed it. He killed it. The second time was also funny.
Right. And then there was Lenny the second time, who we've gone to see several Ray shows, and you know what? They really do. They keep it very PG, so that no matter whether you could be offended or not, there's no way you're going to be offended.
PG-13, I would say.
PG-13 is a good way of putting it. But Lenny took it up a notch. And I have to admit, that was hilarious. I loved...
By the end of it, he was like, screw PG-13, screw R.
And he's like, I'm going for it. He just kept going and going and going. And it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so my second thing is the Aruba Animal Shelter, because I absolutely love going there. As anybody who's listened to other episodes of our post-vacation podcast knows, we went down there on, was it Wednesday? Wednesday of our trip. Normally we go down there as soon as possible. We arrive on a Saturday. And the Aruba Animal Shelter is not open on Sunday. So then there's Monday. Monday we had car issues, right?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Okay, Monday we had car issues, and then Tuesday we didn't go because we went to the... Why didn't we go Tuesday?
We went to Baby Beach, and we left really early in the morning.
Okay, so we went to Baby Beach Tuesday. So yeah, Wednesday we made our first visit to the Aruba Animal Shelter. And as always, everyone there is just incredible. The volunteers that they have down there, they just love the animals so much. It really is amazing, inspiring place to be. So anyone who has never visited there, I urge you to go. Don't think that you're obligated to actually adopt a pet when you go down there. Those guys, I mean, when we were down there this time, there was a litter who was literally just brought in off the street, and they're so scared. They're little babies. They don't realize that there's a whole segment of humanity that wants to love them. So if you visit the Aruba Animal Shelter, you can be the first contact with those animals that shows them that, you know what, there is love out there for them. I mean, that's why I go down there, because we don't live a lifestyle right now that allows for us to bring a new dog into this house, but I still feel obligated to just show them that, you know, there's love for them out there.
Yeah, I agree.
And the volunteers are amazing. We met some some pretty cool people down there. The one lady, she's been down there for God knows how long. What was it, like 16
Well,
years?
she said she's been running the animal shelter or caring for the animals at the animal shelter for 16 years.
Yeah. And then you get some of the young volunteers, and they already know how important it is to show these dogs and cats just how much, that there are people that want to give back to them.
Right. We did meet a girl that was from, I believe, Reading, Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yes, not far from us.
Right.
A couple
that was
hours.
Exciting.
And you fell in love with a doggy down there.
I did. That was kind of funny because our first day there, which was, you said Wednesday, I did fall in love with her. She seemed kind of quiet and meek. And I picked her up, and she laid in my lap and just let me pet her for so long. And I did fall in love with her. However, we went back, was it the next day? So went Thursday?
Yes, Thursday.
I went back on Thursday, and she was a changed girl. Like, I rubbed her head, and the next thing you know, it changed her entirely because she was a bully. She was
yes, she was
very strong-willed. And she seemed to have a problem with the other dogs in the shelter.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely had a personality all of her own and was going to let everybody know about it. Right?
She was tough. She was tough.
You can explain her better than I can.
No, I just thought she was tough, man. She was like, she probably weighed, what, like 5 pounds?
At most.
But in her mind, she weighed 100 pounds.
Right.
So she was just all about asserting herself in certain situations. Like when you started petting her, in her mind, you were her mommy.
Right. You could tell she remembered that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Because the first day it was like really docile. The second day she was like, "No, wait, mommy's here." Everybody back.
Yeah, I couldn't pet any of the other dogs without her like abusing them.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny because she was literally like 5 pounds, and she was bullying dogs that were like 20 pounds heavier than her.
Right. There are all. There's not one of them that I go in there that I don't love. I mean, she was tough. She changed her personality from what I saw at first until what I saw the second day. But each one of them is unique and individual. And I'm laying here right next to my cat right now, and she would hate for me to say this, but I could literally bring any one of them home. They are so loving, and they look into your eyes. Just even the older ones. Remember the ones that were barking, waiting for attention, and we went over to them, and all they're looking for is just a little bit of attention, a little bit of love, and if I could afford to, I would bring every single one of them home with me, as long as my little kitty cat, Claire, would approve of it.
Which she would not.
No, she wouldn't.
So, what is your next highlight of our vacation to Aruba?
Well, that one's easy. I have never met a person that really epitomized what I think of when I think of Arubans and how they really just accept everyone. I sell jewelry, and I had been reading online about a woman who sells her own jewelry, and what really intrigued me about her was that she makes her own jewelry. And I had seen a lot of her products online, and it really intrigued me. You had told me about her and that she goes to different places, different days of the week. And I said, well, I want to know where she is when we're down there because I really want to get an opportunity to see her work in person.
Mm-hmm.
I think the name of her jewelry is Aruba Hand. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct. And her name is Gabby?
Yes. And I know that you had spoke to her before we had come down, and we scheduled a time where we could see her at the Tamarin.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went to the Tamarin, I've never been there before. I didn't know where to go, but they had a lot of booths set up, and there was a lot of people showing their jewelry. And you recognized her from her website, correct?
Right. Well, from Facebook, yeah.
Okay, so when we walked over to her area, I started looking at her jewelry, and I knew right away, oh my gosh, that was hers.
Yes.
I remember some of the pieces that I had seen online, and the pictures online don't do it justice. I ended up buying a piece of her jewelry, and she had so many unique pieces. She explained about how she came to making the pieces of jewelry that she had on display that day. It was really exciting to hear her story, but beyond that, her excitement to talk to people and to interact with you was above and beyond what I expected. And that's what I think of when I think of Arubans. They just seem so happy to be a part of your experience, and I've never met anyone so excited about what she does and excited about where she is and who she's talking to. You could see the difference between her and the other vendors, and it's no wonder her jewelry is as popular as it is.
No, Gabby was amazing. I absolutely am ecstatic that we decided to go over there and check out what she had, because not only was her jewelry beautiful, but also her spirit was just amazing.
That's the perfect way to describe it. Her spirit, it just comes across in everything she does and says.
Right. Sometimes you just run across someone that is just undeniable, and she is one of those people.
Yeah. If you haven't met her, if you haven't seen her work, you really need to go see it. It's beautiful.
Yes, definitely. And my next highlight of the trip, Arashi Beach.
And why did you pick Arashi?
Because sometimes we neglect Arashi. I mean, most people that visit Aruba, they stay at the high rises, so they're at Palm Beach. And
or the low
majority of people the majority of people that don't visit the high rises, they stay at the low rises.
Right.
So they're on Eagle Beach. However, we are part of that segment of people who visit Aruba, but we stay at private rentals. So we're not really necessarily tied to a certain beach. We hop from beach to beach. On any given day, we might be at 2, 3, 4 beaches on a certain day.
Right.
That's how we roll. So this trip, Arashi got a lot more attention than it did in the past. And in past trips, Mantibo got attention or whatever. But this trip, Arashi got a lot of attention for us. And I became addicted to Arashi.
Yeah, remember our last day there? Oh.
Yes. Well, first of all, sunsets at Arashi are spectacular, right?
Yes.
That goes without saying. That's one of our signatures that we do, even on past trips. But this time, for me, the highlight of Arashi was we went there. We left on a Monday. Our plane was scheduled to take off at 3:30 p.m. So we decided since we were already packed, we decided to go to Arashi first thing in the morning. So 8 o'clock in the morning, we're at Arashi Beach. And there were 6, maybe 10 other people there. Cruise ship passengers, there were 4 or 5 in that group.
Right.
No, there were 6 people in that group. And then there was a small group of locals that were there. Yeah, it was just absolutely phenomenal. And the reason why I wanted to go to Arashi that morning was the previous day, which was Sunday, was the weekend. And anybody that's been to Arashi or Baby or any of the local beaches on the weekend, and by local beaches, I mean a place that's not Palm or Eagle, it gets overrun by locals, which to me is a huge plus because you get to see locals just hanging out with their families, listening to music, drinking some drinks, and just enjoying life. And to me, that's the Aruban atmosphere that I really do want to see when I'm on the island.
I agree.
Yeah, so we saw that on Sunday, which then led to us coming back Monday morning, which was a completely different atmosphere, but the same sort of vibe. I mean, it wasn't as energetic because there weren't nearly as many people, but the beauty was there, and for me, the vibe was there as well.
It was also the peacefulness.
Yes, definitely.
I don't know if it was because we were getting ready to leave, but just being there early in the morning, it's quiet, There's not a lot going on. Being in the water, just seeing nature, it was beautiful. But it was funny because as we were getting ready to leave the beach, that was about the time that we would normally arrive. So it was about 10:30. And you could see a lot of other people were beginning to arrive. And the whole atmosphere starts to change.
Yes, it does. It changes. Well, on the weekends, Arashi is just decidedly local.
Right.
But during the weekdays, you get the tourist influx. But early in the morning, before tourists typically wake up, it's still local. And like you said, around 10:30, 11 o'clock, it starts to change a little bit to tourists.
Yeah, it's like the only way I could describe it is it goes from sleeping and peaceful to starting to wake up.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I like to see the difference between the two.
Yes. I heart Arashi.
Yeah.
Okay, that was really corny, but hey, whatever.
Hey, there should be a T-shirt.
I heart Arashi. You know what? I will make that. No, it just is what it is. Arashi Beach is a beautiful beach. Baby Beach is a beautiful beach. Palm and Eagle, they're also beautiful. It's just that they're a little bit more commercialized than some of the local beaches.
There's a beach for everyone.
There is a beach for everyone. You know what? Everyone can also claim multiple beaches. Because I love them all. There's not a single one that I don't enjoy. Each day I wake up with a different mood, and sometimes I feel like being amongst a group of people at Palm Beach, and other times I feel like being, stretched out amongst my own stretch of sand on Eagle Beach. The local situation at Arashi Beach, that's something that I can enjoy almost any time.
I agree.
So we each went through our 3 favorite moments from the vacation to Aruba. But do you have anything else that you want to mention? Any other highlights from the trip?
Yes. I mean, it's so hard. You're like, what are your top 3? And I probably could have redone this whole story several times over and given you 3 different top 3s. However, one that I didn't mention that I really want to talk about was the sunrise.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah. Okay, so the last time we were there, I don't know if I want to tell you this part, but we got up really early in the morning. What was it, 5:30 or something like that in the morning? We were like headed out to see the sunrise. We jumped in the car and we headed to Manchego. And we're driving down to Manchego, and I'm like looking at the sky like, there's something wrong with this sunrise. And all of a sudden, we were like, oh, no. So remember how we had to turn around and drive as fast as we could up to
Alta
Vista, yeah. So we didn't quite get there before the sun rose, and we got beautiful pictures after the sunrise. But this time, we were determined to get the perfect sunrise picture. So we got up really early in the morning, and we headed straight to Alta Vista. And I have never experienced such a peaceful, more beautiful sunrise than that.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and now it was a cloudy day. And we didn't think to look at the weather report because the weather in Aruba is just beautiful, I think.
It's like, who cares?
Go to www.weather.com. and you check on Aruba, it says beautiful. But there are mornings where it's a little cloudier than others. And the morning that we went up there, you know what, it was cloudy. But I was almost happy to experience a cloudy morning because the sun was beautiful anyway. It came up behind the clouds. It turned them to beautiful shades of orange and pink that I've never experienced before. And just the peacefulness at the church. And the people that were cleaning, remember them?
Yes, the ladies that were cleaning the church before the crowds arrived.
Right, it was quiet. The sun wasn't even coming up, and they were scrubbing the windows. They were scrubbing the floor. It was just a peaceful, beautiful experience to just sit there and be with nature and be with God and just experience that whole thing. That was probably one of my favorite experiences on this trip.
The weather thing, yeah. I wish we had looked because, although it was still beautiful, I would prefer a clear morning, because I just think that seeing the sun rise over Alta Vista would be like a defining moment.
Well, you know what? The beauty is that even though we didn't get to see the perfect morning, we get to go back and check it out again.
Yes, most definitely, and I cannot wait for that next trip.
Absolutely.
And I think every trip we have to do that at least once.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and anybody that's out there that rents a car, if you rent a vehicle, you're doing yourself a disservice by not attempting to check out a sunrise at some point or another.
I agree.
So is that it for you?
It's never it for me, and I could do it over and over again and other things as well. I'm sure there's so much that I have yet to discover on Aruba, but for me, this trip, that was it.
I appreciate you coming on this episode of the podcast. We'll talk about we have a lot to talk about, and we'll do that in the future. But for now, I think it's good to just leave it where it is right now.
Okay.
Okay. So, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of One Happy Podcast. I'm sure I'll be bothering you again in the future. Okay.
I enjoyed talking to you, and I hope everybody enjoyed hearing from me again. I love talking about Aruba.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they did, and I know you do. All right, bye-bye.
So there you have it, another incredible episode of One Happy Podcast, the officially unofficial podcast of the island of Aruba. I want to thank Maggie for joining me on today's episode, and I hope you guys really did enjoy it. It was kind of awkward me putting that up, but as long as you guys got something out of it, I'm glad I did. There was some good information in there, mixed with a little bit of humor. If you missed something, don't worry about it, because as always, I took the notes so you don't have to. And the show notes for this episode can be found over at onehappypodcast.com/EP45. Now, onehappypodcast.com is kind of like the flagship for all things podcast related. So head on over there to check out episode archives, show notes, the resource page, and also be on the lookout for different games that we're going to be playing and contests we're going to be running. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff going on. So make sure you head on over to onehappypodcast.com and get on that mailing list. And also, once again, I want to tell everyone about the sort of secret Facebook group that we have going. Now, you can't find it if you search for it on Facebook as of now, because, like I said, it's a secret. But if you're a listener to the podcast, just message me on Facebook, and I'll get you right in there. Or you can send me an email at kurt@onehappypodcast.com, and that's Kurt with a C. Right now, we have a small but growing group of just incredibly awesome people. So if you're not in there, you really are missing out. If you want to leave me a review over at iTunes, that's greatly appreciated. And also, if you'd like to be a guest on a future episode of the podcast, make sure you send me an email at kurt@onehappypodcast.com. Or head on over to the website and click on the tab at the top of the page that says Share Your Story. I can't wait to hear from each and every one of you guys. But in the meantime, until next time.
Bon dia.
You're supposed to say hit the music.
Hit the music.